What is going on, guys? Sorry, I was stuck reading some comments that you guys were putting on the in the chat. But this is Gene Jensen, and it is time for Friday Night Live. Woo! All right, so welcome. It's been a wet day today. It's been rained pretty much the whole day. I'm looking out my office window, and sun's going down, and it's just been crazy. But a couple of reports. First of all, I want to thank George 811 for sponsoring last month. That was an awesome giveaway. I cannot wait. Wait to fish with the winner. I can't remember the winner's name. I think it's John. But anyway, I'm horrible with names. Always have been. But anyway, so absolutely a great month. And and I hope to do that again. I really have. I really am, because it was awesome. It was just awesome. But it's going pretty good. I'm wearing a wrist brace for this wrist and still got tendonitis in my right arm and haven't made a cast in about 2.5, maybe 3 weeks. Just trying to get everything to heal. Everything feels a little bit better, but it's going to be a slow road. I'm going to try to go fishing this next week. I got my new Torqeedo 1104. It's supposed to push that kayak at about 6.5, 7 miles an hour. It's supposed to fly. But what I'm more excited about is the battery life. At half speed, it's going as fast as the 403 Torqeedo motor. I'm talking about the motor on my kayak, guys. But it uses half the battery power, so it ought to be pretty good battery wise. The other one was just fine, but I can get a lot further and go a longer distance, get a lot further away from the boat ramp with the new one. So product spotlight. I've decided to do a little bit of product spotlight, but I just signed with this company right here. You guys remember that have been around a while. A couple of years ago at ICAST, I did a video of the one thing at ICAST that impressed me the most, and it was this little tool right here called the RTD, the rod threading device. And I literally, I didn't approach them. I didn't try to get a sponsorship. They came to me. And I was so impressed with this and so impressed with the owner that I decided to do a little bit of a sponsorship. I wanted to show it to you. What this does is that it's got a little pin in it. I've got one next one off to the side. It's got a little pin in it that looks like this. I don't know if you guys can see it, especially if you're watching on your cell phone, but it's just a little pin, and it's got a little keeper on the end of it that you slide your line through right here. And then you run it up your rod, and it literally puts the line through your guides. Guys that can't see well, guys that have shaky hands and stuff like that, you'll be able to put line through your guides quick and easy. Those of us who just like to do it fast can do it. The one thing I want to mention, though, it does not go through micro guides. So if you got micro guide rods, which a lot of mine are, I just got to remember it doesn't go through there. I'm working on figuring out how to modify this little pin to make it work in micro guides. There's got to be a way. So you know me, I'm going to tinker and tinker until it goes. So, but yeah, it's a pretty good thing. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on, there's a few other websites you can get it on, but yeah, it's called the RTD, the rod threading device. Pretty cool. Yeah. Kelly Jordan's a big part of that too. Him and I've been buds for a long time. Anyway, so, you see the link down at the bottom with www.flukemaster.com. You can get all of my apparel and all my junk that I sell there. It's all good stuff. We're going to do start doing some giveaways involving the stickers. So give you guys a heads up. You might want to go on that website and get a Flukemaster sticker and stick it on something important like your car, your kayak, or your boat. And we're going to start doing some giveaways here shortly about those stickers. So, and just got to get the details all squared away. All right, let's see. I'm going to go backwards and we'll just start some Q&A stuff. Let's see. What's up, Fluke? I just bought some baits from your Texas rig video you did the other day. Thanks. That's cool, man. Yeah, I did my Tackle Tuesday. Man, I can't wait to get on the water. I'm so tired of trying to figure out how to do a video without being on the water this time of the year. But anyway, Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Let's see. Would I take $100 for my old Torqeedo? My son has already called dibs on it. It's actually going to be a backup motor for me too. So, tips for fishing bass in South Florida. I don't fish South Florida this time of the year ever. And the bass do kind of, I know they hunker down in the grass. They get into the under the thick mats of grass and stuff like that. You got to punch through to get to them. But I usually fish early spring. For you guys, that's like December, January, February. So I'm not sure what to do this time of the year. I know they'll go into deep holes too, but they're hard to find. Let's see. Giovanni says, hey, everyone, just getting into fishing recently, so I like these videos a lot. Thanks for all the tips. Thanks, man. Be sure to check out my playlist called Bass Fishing for Beginners or Beginner Fishing, something like that. But I've got a beginners playlist that goes step by step, and it has helped thousands of people learn how to fish, and thousands of people help them catch their first fish and all kinds of stuff. So it's pretty good. It's a great resource. What's your thoughts on the Abu Garcia SX? I have not tried any of the new Abu Garcias since the Gen 3. I have some Gen 1s that I refuse to get rid of unless my kids have found them and destroyed them. And a couple of Gen 2s that were okay, but I still love those Gen 1s. So Wayman Coleman, what's up, my brother? Oh, dude, I love you. I've been thinking about you lately. I need somebody to come grade my yard, but I know you live too far away. Every time I think I was like, man, I wish Wayman lived right down the road. Oh, let's see. Crazy Cajun says, hey, buddy, do you want me to send you an LSU hat? You know what? I need something. When I do catch a fish, I need something to wipe the slime off my hands. I think an LSU hat would be pretty good. I think it would work pretty good. Yeah, nice and absorbent. Hey, Preston, what's going on? Gene, would a backing plate for a GT 175 fit where you have your throttle mounted? I'm not sure. I don't know. Then I'd have to break out my measuring tape on that one. Definitely. All right, I just jumped ahead a whole bunch of comments. Didn't do it on purpose. Michael says the lake I fish has no shad or any white colored bait fish. The bass feed mainly on bluegill, which is normal for a small pond or a lake. Would a white spinnerbait still be my first color choice? It can. A lot of times it just needs to look like something to eat for the bass. If they're getting finicky, I'll change to something that looks more like a bluegill, maybe a bluegill colored crankbait, or maybe a green pumpkin worm with a chartreuse tail, will work too. It's just bass are opportunistic feeders. So if anything comes in front of them that looks like it's edible and they want to grab it to check, to look at it to see if it's edible, they don't have hands. So they're going to reach out and grab it. But yeah, a white spinnerbait would work. White with a little chartreuse might work too. Yeah, either way, man, I've never gone wrong with a whiter chartreuse spinnerbait in any water. So favorite jig trailer in the winter, it's a Zoom, baby, what is it? Super Chunk Junior. And in the summer, it's a Rage Craw or a Rage Chunk. And then those are the two I mainly go with. I keep it simple. So how do you feel about the EX cast bait caster reel for beginners? I've never tried it, Roger. Never even heard of it. Their marketing must really suck. If I've never heard of it, because I try to keep up on stuff like that. I'm going fishing in the morning. Do you think this cold front has ruined the bite? I'm in North Carolina. Fishing in the morning. Do you think this cold front has ruined the bite? It'll affect it. I don't know if it'll ruin it. It's supposed to get real cold tomorrow night. I actually got to go out and cover up some of the plants in my garden. But no, I think it's only going to be a one-night cold front. I know it's been really cold during the nights and it's cooled the water down a little bit, but as long as it stays up in the mid to high, high 50s into the 60s, it should be okay. So tips for cold front in Greenwood, South Carolina tomorrow is a tournament. Jerry, I saw that a little while ago, one of your comments before the stream. Again, I don't know. it all depends on how much your water drops and muddy conditions and that kind of stuff. But I would think they'd stay fairly shallow. They might pull out to the next little drop. They may suspend a little bit, but I think they'll be just fine. I just don't think they'll be super active, so you may have to force them to bite something. Sorry, I had to take a drink. Where do fish move when it's windy? Goodness gracious. A lot of them will go, like in the summertime, they like to go wind-blown banks and wind-blown points and things like that. I know on blueback herring lakes this time of year, they're on wind-blown points. We used to put the biggest trolling motors we could afford on our bass boats and on our John boats so we could fish in the wind. I'd fish a 14-foot John boat in the wind when there was a small craft advisory just because the bite was so good. They get there, they find a place that's pushing current through shallows or through over top of points and stuff like that, and they'll get just over top of that point. There's so many different locations where the wind creates current, which creates a current break for the fish to hang out on, and they'll just be feeding heavy. That's the ideal situation. Now, a lot of times, depending on if they're spawning and that kind of stuff, you get a cold north wind. That'll push them out and push them deeper. So it just depends on the time of the year. But the biggest thing is from here until the end of the summer, look at wind-blown banks and wind-blown points. So G2Q Cubbing says, I recently just won my first junior tourney. That's awesome, man. I remember taking Ryan to his junior Bassmasters tournaments back when he was in school. There was one year he didn't lose a single one. They had 7 tournaments. He won all 7. So, yeah, dude, that's awesome. Congratulations. Hey, Fluke, you still running the Tundra? Yeah, I still got my Tundra. So, looking at a Ford, though, but that's just because I need some serious – I need a F350 or F250 to do some of the stuff I need to do around my house. But I ain't got no money, so I'm just looking. Any suggestions on baits to use Texas rig in New York? The video I just launched on Tuesday, Tackle Tuesday, that's all the baits I use on my Texas rig most of the time. New York, Georgia, wherever. If I'm fishing bass and I want to tie on a Texas rig, the first thing I'm going to do is put some type of a beaver style bait on there, or if the water's warm or in the summertime, I'm going to throw a worm, or just all depends. But that video is full of information for you. So, do you see yourself as more of a teacher or more of a content creator? I like to be a teacher. When I'm a content creator, I feel like I'm forced. But if I feel like I'm teaching and feel like I'm doing that kind of stuff, it's more motivation. It's more motivating to me. That's what I love, dude. I want to teach that one person that wants to learn how to fish. I'm not interested in creating content to attract the masses. And if I did that, I'd go and do stupid, crazy videos. So it's not my thing. I'd be totally fake. And so for me, I just want to teach people how to fish and teach that one person. That's all I'm looking for, the next person. So let's see. Old Guy Disc Golf says, I'm so jonesing for a kayak. Thoughts? Thanks, brother. Love your stuff. Go try some out. Seriously, especially if you're an old guy like your avatar is saying. But go to a paddle shop, find out when their demo days are, or find out if you can go demo some on your own, and demo a few kayaks so you can have more of an informed decision, and then have a budget and all that other stuff for when you're buying something, like something big like that. But the biggest thing is try them out, because not every kayak is good for every person. So I recently turned to 13 fishing rods and reels because of you. I will never use another. They're great. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, they're good. I mean, I love them. I mean, I beat the crap out of them is a thing. My job with 13 Fishing is to take their stuff and go in and see if I can destroy it. And I fish them hard. I put them up wet. I take care of a set few, but the other ones I really try to just kind of act like I'm somebody that doesn't know what I'm doing when it comes to putting them up and taking care of them. And they last. So Let's see. Tell me about a cold front on Lake Wedowee. What do you think? Oh, I don't know. I know this cold front's got a lot of people all worried. I don't think it's going to do much. I think it's going to slow the bite down, but I don't think it's going to move the fish. Same time, this time of year, I'm always looking for bait fish. After they've done spawning, they're pulled off. They're moving out a little deeper, moving out on points. I'm looking for bait fish. So, Brian Gentry, man, thanks for the $10 super sticker, brother. I appreciate it. Oh, you guys are awesome. You guys that donate, you don't have to. You really don't. But I really appreciate you when you do. You're awesome, man. Thanks, man. Want to try Texas rigging a Senko? Any tips? Just do it, man. They bite it. Use the lightest sinker that you can get away with. I use an 1/8 ounce or a 3/16, but nothing heavier when I'm fishing a Senko. Works real good on a Carolina rig too. So, Swan Play says, I haven't had much luck fishing lately. Any tips for getting back on the bass? Go find the bait fish. Like I said, find the food that they eat, and you'll find the bass. Once they're done spawning, that's what they do. They go look for the fish. Get there early in the morning. If you fish lakes that have shad on them, or should be right at the beginning of the shad spawn, and the shad spawn during the night and into the morning until the sun hits the water. So you want to fish those areas of the lake that are shady and stay shady the longest, and fish real shallow. Go watch the video on the shad spawn that I made a couple of years ago on Chickamauga. It's a great video. It covers everything you need to know about the shad spawn. So let's see. Sorry, I hit a button and everything skipped ahead. Nebraska kayak angler, how heavy a square bill will you fish a medium power, moderate fast rod? I don't like to fish anything bigger than a 1.5. So the smaller ones, the big 2.0s seem a little too heavy for a medium moderate rod. Just for me, there are some brands that their medium moderate is a little stiff and can fish those just fine. For me, I just don't feel comfortable with it. So yeah, something like a 1.5, the smaller square bills. If I'm going to fish a bigger one, it's going to be a medium heavy. But that's me because I have them both. You can get away with fishing a 2.0 on a medium power rod, but I don't like to do it. Just feels too heavy on the back cast. So Senko versus Ned rig, you can only choose one. Which one would you choose? A Ned rig, because I cannot stand fishing a Senko. I'd rather watch paint dry or grass grow than to fish a Senko. I do it when they're biting it, but I just would rather fish anything else. So I'm going to force myself to fish one this year, though. Whew. Hey, Gene, love your videos. I have learned a lot. Just got some JJ's Magic. What and how is the best way to use it? First of all, the best way to store it is to get yourself one of those Tupperware airtight containers that is tall enough for the bottle, and store them in that, and just kind of put a towel around them and stuff. The goal is you don't want the bottles to fall over when you're storing them, whether you're storing them in your boat, your kayak, or in your shop. Don't take them in the house, because no matter what you do, that box is going to smell like garlic. And you don't want them to tip over, because it's that change in temperature while they're laying on their sides that causes it to leak out, because it releases pressure. That chemical that they put in it is not volatile. It's pretty safe. It's temperature sensitive. Now, if you want to know how to use it, I made an old video about how I paint my baits with JJ's Magic and that kind of stuff. And just go to town, man. There's really not a bad way to use it. I use Q-tips to paint with. I'll just dip them in the JJ's and paint my baits and have a whole bunch of fun with it. So, oh, I love JJ's, man. That's some good stuff. Best fluorocarbon line. There are a couple of really good brands. And with fluorocarbon, this is what I've found out over the years. You get what you pay for. Because of the cost of that polymer, that small little pellet that they turn into fishing line, because of the cost of fluorocarbon polymer, you get what you pay for. The higher end stuff is the best. The lower end stuff, you're going to be choking yourself before you finish fishing that stuff. It's just very hard to handle. So $20 a spool and up is about where where that line is between good and bad. So, and I use Seaguar is what I do. Seaguar Abrazex is what I choose to use because I need something that's a little bit more abrasion resistant, but still manageable on the reel. You can get abrasion resistant fluorocarbon, but typically it's real stiff. Abrazex is not that stiff. So Tatsu is still the best. Let's see. These new Fords got a ton of space in the back seat, load of all your tackle equipment. Dude, I need a trailer instead of a back seat sometimes, especially with kayak stuff. But yeah, I'm in the market for a new truck. I just need to find the money. So, William Connor, I follow you more than I follow anyone. All of the tips and videos you give and do have made me a better angler. Thanks, Fluke. You rock, brother. Go Vols. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Go Dogs. Really do appreciate it. What's your favorite bait? I don't really have, I hate to point out a favorite bait. I have favorite baits that I'll use under certain situations, but I usually let the bass tell me what their favorite bait is. And so that's the difference. I feel like if I get a favorite bait, then I will lock in on that one and not fish anything else. So what sucks about making videos and making instructional videos is I really can't settle on a bait because I've got to go on to the next one and go on to the next one and keep trying and learning new things to be able to teach you guys. Sometimes, very rarely though, sometimes I think about what it would be like if I just fished every day without having to worry about content. And I probably would have like 10 baits and that was it, but now because I want to teach you guys everything, I've got to have and use and know everything I can about a lot of things. So I almost said know everything. I'll never know everything. Hey Gene, what bait would you recommend if you were getting skunked at a pond, want to catch any fish? The Ned rig, by far the Ned rig. Go watch that video I made a couple years ago on the Ned rig. Seriously. So I want to make another one. There's so much new things about the Ned rig. I may have to make another one this year. Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. Al Bassett, what's going on? Al Bassett, I heard that his nickname years ago was the what is it? The walking oh man, what was it? Oh, the walking parts catalog for Lowrance. Al Bassett knows the parts number for every part and everything that Lowrance sells. He's the Lowrance guru. If any of you guys live around Oconee, Lake Oconee, or want to go to Lake Oconee and learn how to read fish finders, that's the man to go to. I've known him for a lot of years. And my goodness, he's taught thousands of people how to read fish finders. Big Rig HD or SS127. I haven't fished the HD. I fished the Big Rig and I loved the boat. The 127, the Bonafide 127 is a little more stable than the Big Rig. And the reason I know this is I was demoing kayaks one day for a shop in Tennessee. And this one young guy came and he took a Bonafide SS127 out. I watched him grab the side handle and flip the kayak and then get back into it, flip it back over, get back into it and paddle it back in. And then about 30 minutes to an hour later, I saw him take a Big Rig out and do the same thing. And I was like, man, what is this kid doing? And I walked up to him and I asked him, I said, man, what were you doing? He says, I wanted to see which one was the hardest to flip. And I said, okay, which one? He says the 127 was a lot harder to flip than the Big Rig. And I had a hard time believing him, but hey, he did it. So, hey, Gene, I got a nice largemouth bass. I want to keep going back to that spot. Is that okay? It's okay. They may be there one day and gone the next. They may be in the area. What I used to do when I bank fished is I would draw just a map on a piece of paper. It didn't even have to be perfect. Just something to let me know where things were. And I'd put a little X where I caught fish. And I kept that map for months. And after a little while, I noticed that I was catching fish in or certain spots around the lake all the time. So that eliminated all the other areas that I never caught fish. And I would just go from those spots and I'd get catch more and more fish during the day because I was only going to the active or to the key spots on the lake. Man, that was 100 years ago. Whew. Braden says, hey, Gene, what bait would you recommend if you were getting skunked at a pond? Oh, I already read that one. Let me skip ahead a little bit. What rod and reel and bait caster for beginners? Texas rig from Bank Ponds. $100 to $125 budget. I'd have to look, but I always recommend a spinning rod for beginners. It just kind of, the thing about a spinning rod is when it starts to have issues with the line, you can see it and you can stop it before it really gets bad. Those little push button reels are the same thing as a spinning reel. They just have a hard time. You just can't see what's going on inside of that reel, and it can mess up without you even knowing it. But I get a spinning rod, get a medium to a medium heavy action spinning rod. That's within your budget. And you'll be set. Put 10 to 12 pound, probably 10-pound test line on it, and go out and just learn and have a whole lot of fun with it. Let's see. Hey brother, how do you fish a chatterbait for bass? I've got a video about it, but I'm gonna tell you the nuts and bolts of it. A chatterbait works the best when it is just ticking off of something, whether it be the bottom or grass. It works really good through grass. What I like to do, especially in the early spring and all the way through the spawn, is I'll get into these real shallow creek bends and things like that. I'll throw it out, let it sink to the bottom, and then I'll just lift my rod up just a little bit and just slowly reel it, and then stop every couple, 2-3 turns just to make sure I'm staying close to the bottom, and I want it to kind of bounce the bottom or just swim just off the bottom where it's ticking whatever is down there, or come through the grass. Do not fish it through brush or laydowns or trees because it will get hung. But as long as you're bumping off of something, you're going to get bit. Just a great deal. But I get into huge detail in that chatterbait video. So, all right. Saw one about a sprinkler frog. I have not used a sprinkler. Well, yeah, I have. That's a lie. I used one 2 years ago. It wasn't. I think that was more hype than it was anything else. So, sprinkler is a topwater frog with 2 little legs that kick. I think I'm sure it catches fish. I know I got a couple of blow-ups on it, but it just wasn't all that everybody said it was. So that's why I usually wait a long time before I buy the next big and great lure. So I think it took me 3 years or 4 years to buy my first chatterbait. Let's see. Mitch Coleman says, Gene, I'm fishing the Willamette for smallmouth. Go Oregon. I love the Willamette River. How do you deal with the floating river weed, algae, perfect cast to get messed up? Oh, man. There's really not any way you're just going to have to deal with it. It's rough. From what I normally do is I'll throw things like worms with some little bullet weights on it, little Texas rig, something that where if I do get something wrapped around it, I can do a quick pop on my rod and it will shake most of that grass off. A bass will bite a worm or bite a lure that has a little bit of grass hanging off of it. If you get a lot that ruins the action, that's when you have your issues. But man, I love the Willamette River. I caught my first steelhead out of the Willamette River. So, let's see. Caleb W. Tucker says, I've been watching all your videos lately, getting back into fishing. A few years ago, all my tackle was stolen. Man, I've had that happen. And I was working too much to get back into it. I have been slowly but surely rebuilding my tackle gear, and your advice has really, really helped. Thanks. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it happened to me. Something similar happened to me. I was on my way. I was 17 years old. I was fishing out one of those little 10-foot bass raiders that I was borrowing from a buddy. And it was in the back of my truck, and I was heading to the public fishing area. And I made a turn, and my tackle box fell out of that boat. And about 5 minutes later, I got to the ramp and realized it was gone. Whipped back around, came back. By the time I got back to where it was gone. Somebody had picked it up and stole it, and it had hundreds of dollars worth of tackle, and there was no way I was ever going to get all that tackle back, and it literally set me back for years. So yeah, dude, I wish, and I had my name and phone number inside the tackle box, and nobody ever called me, which sucked. So I feel you, man. All you guys that are new to fishing, biggest thing is that I ask that I have to offer are my beginner fishing videos. Jump on them, even if it's one of those. There's some of those videos you need to rewatch, even if you're a great fisherman, every year. It's what I do, just to try to remember the things you take for granted. But that's those videos on that playlist are golden when it comes to learning how to bass fish. I need to add some more to it. I'm sure there's more I can add to that playlist. Let's see. Robert Carter, do bass have home areas on the lake? Will a bass live at a certain place year round? Not year round. It'll live in the same area because it's got to move depending on the bait fish. It's got to move to spawn. Summertime, it'll pull back out. But the reason I say they have a spot, they have a favorite spot that they like to stay certain times of the year, was one bass on Lake Varner was caught, I think, 4 times and released. I think it released 3 of the 4. One time it was released back where it was caught, and it was an 8 to 10 pound bass during that period of time. And the 3 of the times it was caught in February on the same stump on a road bed in 12.5 feet of water. And it was weighed in a tournament 2 miles away each time and released at the boat ramp. And it found its way back up the lake 2.5 miles away to that stump. And it was caught there in February. So they have an area that they like, but they will move around in that area. And nothing dictates how big that area is. So, hey, Fluke, what would be your number one bait caster? My number one bait caster is a 13 Fishing Concept A. I love that bait caster. It is, it's my workhorse. Now, the Inception is a great workhorse for those of you guys who want to buy something about $120. I love the Inception, but that Concept A is one that I always go back to, and it's the one I have the most of because of that. So, what catches more, ribbon tail or trickworm? Boy, that's hard to say. Ribbon tail's been around longer than a trickworm, so I'm sure ribbon tail has caught more fish. I've caught bigger fish on a ribbon tail than I have a trickworm, but I catch more fish, or I get more bites on a trickworm. So, and I fish big ribbon tails. Let me qualify that. I fish 10-inch ribbon tails, rarely anything smaller. So, Danny Davidson on Facebook says, hey, I'm fishing in, you didn't say hey, I said hey. I'm fishing in La Crosse this next weekend. Never fished there, seriously. I'm thinking some buzz baits, chatterbaits, and frogs. But what colors? Blue, black, green, pumpkin. Take 3 different colors. Take something that's got a black bottom, something that's got a white bottom, and something's got a yellow bottom. When you're talking about frogs, chatterbaits are great. They'll work great. Get a very, very thin steel leader if you want to keep them, because chatterbaits and frogs will go by the way of pike in the La Crosse area. And I fish my frogs, and when you're fishing the grass, having a little steel leader, little short steel leader, has never affected the frog bite for me. And I keep my frogs. Now, when I do fish them without a steel leader, I went through the first time I fished La Crosse, I went through 10 frogs in a day. It was amazing. Those big pike would come out of the water, hit those frogs, and the line would be slack on the water, and they would never tighten up, but they would cut the line. Whoop, gone. And they would never tighten the line up. It just gone. So be sure you take care of your baits, or bring a bunch to replace the ones you're going to lose to pike. How long of a floor leader should you have when finesse fishing? For me, I'm comfortable with something about 1.5 times the length of the rod. Now, I'm trying something this year that I watched in one of Mike Iaconelli's seminars on Bass University. He talked about basically like a 25-foot long leader. He ties the FG knot and then just starts reeling his rod 10 or 12 times and then stops. And I don't know how long that leader is, but I'm trying that, and I'm still still trying to figure out whether I like it or not. So, but I typically for years I've been using something 1.5 times the length of my rod. So Tim Vaughn, thanks for the $5, man. He says kayak tournament tomorrow, leafy grass, 73-degree temps. Any tips for bait selection on location in a 500-acre lake in these conditions? It's going to get cold. My first thought is to tie something on that's kind of erratic. So you can search and get bites. You may not be able to hook them, but get bites. And then once you get those bites in that submerged leafy grass, start dragging something that does not sink way down to the bottom, kind of rides across that grass. A chatterbait comes to mind when I hear leafy grass because it comes through that really, really well. But I would definitely try something like a split shot rig or a Mojo rig or a Carolina rig, real light Carolina rig. So that's my thoughts. Zach Wagner, are beads needed on Carolina, Texas rigs, either the sound or not protection? If you tie two, let me finish reading your comment, or can I fish them without beads? Would a BB work to stop the weights? P.S. Get well soon. Prayers, bud. Thanks, Zach. I appreciate it. My thought is I fish a bead in front of a Texas rig when I'm fishing like really dirty water or mostly at night. I'll throw a bead on the Texas rig just to give it that tick as I'm hopping it through. Carolina rig, it mainly works to protect the knot if you use a swivel. I don't use a swivel. I use a Carolina keeper. So I can go with or without the beads. If I've got the beads on, they're for noise. And I've seen in clear water a bass come to the noise of that sinker banging up against that bead and be in that area when that worm comes by, and that worm's just slowly drifting on by, totally silent, and he grabs it. I've seen it work many, many times. So it's best to have a bead than not. And I say the same thing about rattles on a jig. It's better to have them than not. It never hurts to have them, but it can hurt if you don't. So Tim, thanks for the $9. He says, love your videos. I'm doing a live kayak tournament tomorrow in Wisconsin. Air temp overnight is below freezing. Water temp's 55 and water is stained. Any suggestions? They're going to get into a funk. That water temperature is going to drop probably down into the low 50s overnight. Just fish slower than you normally would. That's the only thing I can think of. And a jerkbait might work too. Really, a jerkbait fish slow. They're going to be funky. They're just going to be like, I don't want to do anything, but you're just going to have to try to beat them in the head and get them to bite. But yeah, something, either a jerkbait or fish something super, super slow on the bottom. Crawfish are still pretty active during that water temperature, and they should be pretty active. So don't overestimate a little Texas rig crawfish or something like that. Good luck, man. Woo! I mean, we got 300 people on the chat. Wow! If you guys are new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. For if I ever get healed, I'll be able to make a cast again and put out some fishing videos. I'm going to put some fishing videos out whether I can fish or not. But dadgum, it stinks. But be sure to hit the subscribe button. Fishing Joe, he caught a 7-pounder at Fort Yargo, a 7-pounder. Really? That's awesome. With a Texas rig Cinco. Took some time, but boy, was it worth it. New personal best. I owe it all to you, Fluke. Thanks for the advice on your videos. Thanks, man. That's awesome. That's a big fish for Fort Yargo State Park. Wow. Christopher Escher. You guys be sure to hit the thumbs up button too. Thanks to you and your videos, I caught my first bass after a 20-year break from fishing. Do you ever fish in the Las Vegas area? I've never been to Las Vegas. My brother was there, but I've never been there. But congratulations, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to go fish like Lake Mead and that kind of stuff. Those kind of areas. Just we will one day. Maybe I'll have to wait till some of my kids get older. I've been working them like mules this week. They've been out of school, so we've been putting gardens in and replacing back porches. Hey there, hello from Ontario, and going down below freezing tonight besides a sweater. Any advice on tomorrow morning for some river fishing? Same thing, man. Throw something erratic like a jerkbait or drag something on the bottom real slow that looks like a crawfish, and you should be all right. I suck during that period. And when something like this happens this time of the year, just a freakish cold front comes through. I struggle, and I don't know if it's because I suck or if it's just because the fishing sucks. Brian Smith, I've seen a Carolina keeper for the first time at Country Sportsman today. Yeah, I use them. Been using them for probably 15 years. And well, maybe longer than that. I learned about them on a VHS tape of Woo Daves back in the day, making a video on how to fish a Carolina rig. Back when the pros used to teach people how to fish. But yeah, you just pinch it with a pair of pliers and it opens up and you slide your line through and you can adjust your leader. Biggest thing with those things is if you use something a half ounce or heavier, use 2 Carolina keepers to keep it from sliding up and down your line. So, let's see. How much horsepower for an engine are you comfortable with to have in your boat for a river with current? Dude, I use whatever I try to use the biggest horsepower that's rated for whatever boat I'm in. My Alumacraft Pro 185 is rated for a 115, and I've got a 115 on it. It's always better to have more power, especially when fighting current, than less power. But 115 works really good in shallow stuff. The rivers around here, I literally would have a jet drive, but I know there's a lot of rivers around the country where you can get into them in a big boat and run all you want. So, but yeah, it's better to have more power than not enough. When you say roadbed, what do you mean? So most of the lakes here in the South and in a lot of parts of the country are man-made lakes. And when they flooded the lake, it flooded over road beds. A lot of them are dirt road beds from back in wagon days. A lot of them are concrete. The one I fish regularly has an asphalt road bed that runs through 2 of the lakes. It's just old road, and it's hard bottom, and the bass like to hang out around it. A lot of the topo maps have road beds marked, and just for that reason. So because the bass love to hang out around that hard bottom, because a lot of the lakes anywhere around there is going to be not a soft bottom, and they'd rather be around that hard bottom. So yep, that's a road bed. A lot of times you can identify them by looking on the bank and seeing where a road's coming in or where a road used to come in. Just look for, you'll if you ever see one, you'll be like, that's what fluke meant. And that's exactly what, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. What temp do fish spawn? Does water temperature dictate spawn? It has a lot to do with it. They start to spawn in the low 60s. 60, 61, 62, they'll spawn hard after 63, and they'll stop spawning in the low 70s. I've seen them spawn later, but it just gets too warm. They spawn deeper when it gets warmer, is what I've noticed. It has a lot to do with it. It's time of the year, it's it's light penetration, and it's temperature of the water that all affects it. Hey, Gene, I'm deployed in Bahrain. Okay, I got you. Woo! Typos, but that's okay. I can figure it out. Hey, Gene, I'm deployed in Bahrain, but hope to be in the States soon. It is a year deployment. I caught a 3-pound bass from Bahrain, U.S. Army. That's awesome, man. Huh. Dude, Jared, be safe out there, man. Thanks for your service. From one Army guy to another, man, keep your head down. Keep your eyes open and stay safe, bro. Hey, Gene, going fishing this weekend and wondering what do you think the best baits this time of the year are? Man, they hit a bunch of things. This is topwater season. If they're post-spawn, you're going to find a lot of bait fish spawning. So work the shallow areas with a spinner bait or fluke or something, something that looks like a bait fish. It doesn't have to match the hatch 100%. The bass are going to be shallow for the next month or two. And I love to drag a worm here on our lakes. The lakes I fish that are local, and I fish all over the Southeast, but these little lakes local, they warm up a little faster than a lot of the big lakes. And so if you got a lake that warms up pretty fast, the bass are going to pull out a little bit deeper. Texas rig worm is what I'll be throwing for the next 2 months, just to find the fish and catch the big ones. So, and big swim baits is another thing I want to try this next 2 months. Mark D, you just talked about rattles on jig. What are those, and where do you put them on a jig? Oh man, I wish I had my jig box in here. Write this down. Google jig skirt collars and look for rattle collars is what you're looking for. And it looks actually looks like a Mickey Mouse, you know, the head and two little ears on a Mickey Mouse is what it looks like. And you slide those over the jig, and then there's certain rattles that hook into them. Man, I gotta maybe I'll do that in Tackle Tuesday. It's hard to explain, but there are jig rattles that you can add to a jig, and I'm sure you can find them out there. They're not that expensive. I buy them in bulk, like 50 at a time. They easily attach to your jigs, and they just make a little bit of a clicking noise. It's two little BBs in a tube that are glued on both ends. So, can you fish a jerkbait in 6-inch visibility water? I don't like to. I don't have confidence in it. It has to be clear to almost kind of stained water to fish a jerkbait. I just have never had a good success on it. Just because I think the bass need to see it from a long ways away and come up and hit it. So I wouldn't do it. Spinner bait I would pick before that. Something that makes a little bit more vibration. One with a Colorado blade. Something with, you're looking for something with vibration and sound, and I just never had any luck with it. But thanks, Thomas. I appreciate you. Tim, thanks. He says, thanks. Keep up the great work. Appreciate it, man. How do you attack a new lake from the bank? There's a video that I did with my son a couple of years ago that covers this. But the first thing I do is I look at the water clarity to decide what color baits I'm going to use. Then I'll pull those out and put them in a little bag, and I'll carry them around the bank. But the biggest thing is go to the deep water first. Go to the dam. Start fishing at the dam and working your way around. Concentrate on things that create points or things that stick further out in the water than the regular bank. Grass points. A tree laying in the water, something that sticks out further, and then land points. So if you come along and you have the bank that's, let me do it sideways. The bank comes in like this, and all of a sudden it dips down and goes out into the water like this. That's a point. They're going to be up right out here off that point in the water. That's what I look for. Anything different. And you'll find a couple of fish, I guarantee. But that's usually my thing. I start in that deep water, because that deep water on a small pond, or even on a big pond, that deep water is their safety. If something happens, if they get spooked, if the weather changes, they move off over into that deep water where they feel safer. Hey, Gene, I own a 2000 Bayliner fishing ski boat for the fam years ago. I want to tournament fish, but can't afford a bass boat now. Will my boat be allowed? It usually is. I used to fish big bass boat tournaments in a 14-foot John boat with an 8-horse tiller motor on the back. You just can't go as far as everybody else. So everybody thinks they have an advantage over you, which is great, because I won a few tournaments out of my little 14-foot John boat. But the biggest thing is just know what you can and can't do in that boat. Most tournaments will let you do it. You just got to check the rules, make sure there's not like I know the bigger tournaments sometimes have a horsepower rating and that kind of stuff, but typically little local tournaments, they don't have a problem with that. Jason Beck, thinking about converting my arsenal to 13 fishing. Are the combos the best way to start, or build my own combos? Build your own. By far, build your own. Even 13's combos are great, but it doesn't matter what brand. I always say build your own if you can do it. Just because you can pick and choose exactly what rod you want and then put a reel on it, and you'll be just fine. Typically, especially with the cheap combos, no matter what brand, the cheapest combos is going to be a cheap stinking rod with a halfway, maybe decent reel on it. So I'm thinking about the old Black Max combos that I did a review on years ago. The Black Max reel was a good reel, a really good starter beginner reel. But the rod that they had in that combo was a piece of junk. And I always worried about that. So Christopher Escher says, thanks to you and your videos, I caught my first bass. Oh, you already read that one. Or you said it twice, which is okay. Thoughts on copolymer fishing line? There's only one copolymer fishing line that I will use, and I used it for years until I got sponsored by Seaguar. But I'll still talk about it. It's Izorline Super or Triple X Super Copolymer. Izorline is the best copolymer on the market. I've tried the other brands, and I bought $100 worth of one brand, put it on a bunch of reels, and in 3 days ripped it all off and waited on my order from Izorline. Because it was just horrible. It's the best stuff out there, and I love to use it. And I used it all the way up until until Seaguar came on board, and I've been using Seaguar since 2006. So it's not like they're paying me, so I'm using their stuff. I used it long before that, and I wish they had a good copolymer. It would be nice. Let's see. Hey, Fluke, any advice on starting a YouTube channel? Yes, I'll tell you the same thing I've told everybody for years. Start. Why haven't you started yet? Get it started and make the mistakes and figure things out. The best thing is start and don't quit. I'm the guy that didn't quit. That's the reason I'm sitting here today. I have a passion to teach people how to fish, and I didn't quit. And so YouTube is just a platform in which I grew, okay? And after, I'm going to get off my soapbox in a second, but I love doing this. And if you don't love it, you're not going to continue to do it. So don't look at the numbers for a couple, 2 or 3 years. Kind of pay attention to them to get to know what they mean, but don't get discouraged over your numbers. See, YouTube pays when if you're looking to use YouTube to earn money, it hardly ever works unless you're just crazy. Anyway. But if you're looking to earn money right away, it ain't going to happen. It took me 4 years before I got my first $100 check from YouTube. It was 4 years worth of waiting for and building up for $100. So it takes a long time. Best thing is just start and don't quit and learn all you can about making videos. Let's see. My local lake is small and very pressured. What do you do what do you do on a lake like that? The lake I fish all the time in my videos is a high pressured public lake. The parking lots, there's 2 parking lots and 2 boat ramps. The parking lots are full every single day. So it's a lot of pressure. And so what I do when I have to get a bite is I go light line, I go smaller baits, or I go heavy line like 25-pound fluorocarbon and throw big baits. And I'm looking for one big bite when I'm throwing big baits, but big fish don't get the opportunity, or I can weed out all the small ones, but I always tend to catch or get a good bite on a big fish when I'm throwing big bull shad swim baits. But for the most part, I'm going to go with a spinning rod and a Ned rig and something else and be just fine. So let's see. I'm going to read that one from Patrick West. It's a long one, but it looks like Patrick West on Facebook says, talk about deep fishing bass. I see my fish finder light up with bass, but my lake has so much bait balls that they are not interested in lures. Fish are 25 feet deep, and I even wonder if they can see the bait. I throw chatterbaits, flukes, drop shots, and deep divers, spoons, rigs, etc. Thoughts? All right, here's my first thought. Go over 4 or 5 bait balls. Get their average depth. So if they're at 25 feet deep right now, I am looking, and I'm assuming that's the bottom of them that is 25 feet deep or something. But you got to figure out how deep those balls are. And then once you figure out the balls of bait fish, then you go look for parts of the bottom that are at that depth that stick out a little further. I go straight to the closest point is what I do. And I go and I scan that point and I try to find that 15 or in your case, 25 foot deep spot on that point. And I kind of go around it a little bit and I fish it, especially that deep. You can ride over it with your boat. And you're not going to spook bass if they're on it. Bass are like deer hunters. They find a spot to hide at the area that the bait are going to swim by. And then they go out and they eat bait and they come back. And then they go out and eat bait and they come back. They just wait for those balls of bait fish that are at that depth to kind of meander on past them. The only ones that spotted bass will move out and chase them a little bit more than largemouth, but largemouth won't. So I hope that helped. Hey, Gene, in your experience, what is the best way to mount a transducer in my kayak other than a scupper mount? Go to yakattack.com and look at their little arm that goes out over top of the side or over the side of the kayak. A lot of guys do that and they love it, especially with side imaging. If you don't have a scupper hole that can hold the side imaging sonar, but with any sonar really, or any transducer, just it goes over the side, easily removable. You can take it out of your kayak and put it in your truck and ship and go with it. But yeah, check out what Yak Attack sells. And it's the reason I say that is a really solid mount. You get the ones that are all flexible and go over the side. That thing, when you're going into current and stuff like that, it'll move a little bit and get you off kilter. So, Seth Riley, I'm transferring to bass fishing after primarily fishing pike. What lures or soft plastics should I use? Man, you can use those pike lures really. But I'm assuming if you live up around pike areas, you know, topwater frogs will work, spinner baits, crankbaits. But a lot of spinners will work, or a lot of the baits that will work that you fish for pike will work for bass. First thing, another thing comes to mind is maybe a Texas rig. Watch the video on how to fish a Texas rig that I made a couple of years ago, and then just go fish that shallow cover. I don't know where you live. I don't know what lake, what state you're in, but everywhere that I've been, I can catch a bass on the same things. A bass is a bass is a bass anywhere. So, do you fish the Mans -1s this time of year? Yeah, I typically, if I've got them, I do. I lost my box of Mans -1s about 4 or 5 years ago and just never have replaced them. But yeah, that's what I'd be throwing, something shallow like that. Strike King makes a little shallow crankbait I throw. 13 Fishing's Scamp, the little short one, the 60 Scamp 60, goes 1 to 3 feet, so about the same depth. I just hold my rod up a little bit higher. So, all right, let's see. What's up, Fluke? Are you going to fish any more tournaments this time of the year? Right now, I am signed up to fish the KBF Challenge Series in Georgia, which is a month long, and I need to make a video on how to do this so you guys can all sign up for it. But it's a month-long tournament. It's my best 5 during the month. I've just got to get my arms. I've got a brace on my right wrist. I've got tendonitis in my right. Brace on my left wrist, tendonitis in my right arm. I got to get to where I can make a cast again. I haven't been able to cast for 3 weeks, trying to get this healed up. But I really, yeah, that's the one I'm going to fish, and then I qualified for the national championship, which because of COVID-19 got pushed into October. And so hopefully I am healed up and ready to fish by then. I'm sure I'm going to go fishing this week. I'm just not going to fish hard. Hey, Gene, what's out there that's similar to the Torpedo? Oh, Torpedo and Tiny Torpedo. Woo! Used to use them all the time several years ago, and I was a firm believer there. Me too, man. I have like 6 of them left. One of them leaks, and I'm going to try to figure out how to seal it up. But I don't know. I really haven't looked for a replacement. Look on Tackle Warehouse for like a prop bait and see. I know that Greenfish Tackle doesn't make something similar, but they make a crankbait that's got props on both ends that I catch fish on. But you're right, man. That Tiny Torpedo was amazing. And it was just an ugly little, looked like a junky lure. You should jump on the TikTok bandwagon. That platform is blowing up, and you could easily expand your reach to the masses. I don't know what I would do on TikTok. First of all, it's owned by China, the government of, the Chinese government. So I don't trust that at all. And I'm typically not a conspiracy theorist, but anyway. So, but yeah, I've got a TikTok account, and just because I do that when new platforms open up, but I don't, not interested. Yeah, wow, 321 viewers. Golly, if you guys are new to my stream, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the little bell so you can get notifications when I launch videos. I've got a video I'm working on right now. I've got to get my son down here to do some graphics for me because I suck at it. But it's basically it's next level kayak fishing. It's the weird things that go through my head that make sense. You know what I'm saying? That most guys don't think about. So it's like next level thinking on how to make sure everything is perfect, boat positioning and that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. Joshua Phillips, I'm going fishing on an all-electric reservoir Sunday, and it's been raining in Dawsonville, Georgia for a few days. What do you recommend? I know which lake you're fishing on. I've never fished it. I'm jealous. I would love to be able to fish that lake. The bass are, if the lake's rising, which it should be, they're going to be real shallow. With this cold front, they're going to be a little funky to bite, but expect them to be super shallow. And then pick your lures accordingly. So, all right, guys, it's been an hour. I'm going to have one more question, and then we're going to call it a day. Let's see. Max Fry's never been to Sweetwater Creek. Joe Parks, the FG Knot video you did was awesome. I watched others and was super confused. After watching your video, the majority of my rods have braid to leader, such a smooth knot. It is a smooth knot. My video is not the best, but I think mine, in conjunction with the two that Salt Strong has come out with, should be perfect, and it should help anybody. They did a really good job camera wise. I didn't. I did a good job of explaining it. They did a good job of showing it on camera. So between the two, should be really good. That FG knot is the best connecting knot when you're connecting a braided main line to a fluorocarbon leader, by far the best. And it's not just because I love it and I use it all the time. It's a 100% knot strength knot. It's, in other words, when you put it in a tester to try to break that knot, it's going to have 100% of the strength of the line before it breaks. And most knots can't say that just because of the way they're tied. So, oh goodness. All right, guys. Well, I'm sorry. It's time to jump off of there. I usually run these an hour, then I go spend time with my family. You guys are awesome. Thanks for joining me. I love you guys, man. It's so great seeing how all these guys join into these chats. You guys stay safe out there. Oh, register to vote. I forgot to talk about that. I'm not going to get into politics. I never do, but we need to register to vote. I don't care who you vote for, but it's that time of the year to go out and get online, go to your however you've got to register to vote in your state, register. That way you can vote in November. But anyway, guys, like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water. Go out and catch some fish and have a great day. We'll see you.